I don't know why I bother to write talks when we have music like that. And I love it when spirit, that thing we sometimes call God for want of a big enough word, shows up through the artist's hands. It is just delightful. So, like I said, I don't know why I bother to write talks when I have music like that to talk about. There is something within the characters we call heroes, and I would suggest that it is that they are in touch with the divine within them, that whatever they want to call it, whether it's courage or honor or power, it is that which is the truth of their being that allows them to do the right thing when it seems perhaps, in an older sense of the term, more political or politic. Sorry, that's the word I was looking for. More politic, more better for your work life to just shut up and sit down. And so as Brick was singing, I was imagining looking up to the mountains, and that's a hugely spiritual image for many of us. We talk about going to the mountain, having a mountaintop experience, and somehow we have to get ourselves there. And then, as the Buddhists would tell you, the hard part is coming back down and living in the valley without forgetting what that mountaintop has to offer us. Howard Thurman once wrote, "Keep fast before me the moments of my high resolve." And he was talking about that mountaintop experience, that part of us that knows we are heroes because we are willing to be vulnerable. We don't have to be invulnerable to be heroes. As a matter of fact, for such a time and a place as this, I'd suggest to you that what would really be heroic is opening up our hearts and allowing our intuition to lead us. And so it's very appropriate here on both Valentine's Day, and the Lunar New Year, to step into that great thing that I call the great ineffable, that thing that actually our talk calls the infinite invisible. We are still talking about the single journey that all of us take different paths on. And that journey is always to be at home in our hearts. And one of the things that we do in order to get there is our own spiritual practice, which takes so many forms. Now, this particular talk title was taken from a line in a book called The Art of Meditation. And it was written in 1950 or published in 1956 by a man named Joel Goldsmith that many of you already know. He wrote, in going within, we do not turn to our own spirituality or our own goodness or our own strength, but we go within to unleash the infinite invisible. So it's not like I am telling you, you need to go out and save the world with your love and your power and all of the good stuff that is true of you. What I'm suggesting is that if we can stop trying to control the world and force it to be a better place and force the other people in it to be better people according to our definition, if we would get quiet and go within and begin to listen to the true hero within each and every one of us, the one that absolutely knows what love is calling for now, that would be us unleashing a power above and beyond anything that humanity has seen ever before. We've gotten glimpses before, but I don't know that the ineffable is or has ever been seen in the way it could be, seen in the way it seems like is being called for now. As the whole world comes together, it might look like we're coming together in the name of discord. But in truth, this is the activity of love, the activity of the infinite invisible in, through, and as each and every single one of us deciding that it is time to stop learning about love through its absence and learn about it through expressing it as openly and as powerfully and as unconditionally as we all can. And here's the thing about love as well as the infinite invisible. I can't put one single face on it. I can't say there's only one path to it or one religion that gets it. Even our own philosophy touches on it and then calls us to go within to find that incredible power that lives within us and speaks. One author called it the thunderous silence. Yes, the thunder of silence. In the the Christian tradition, in the book of John, that is the book that is most aligned with the mystic path. And what John wrote in chapter 3, verse 8 is, the wind blows where it wishes and you hear its sound, but you don't know where it comes from or where it goes. And so it is with everyone born of spirit. In following our hearts, in being true heroes today, we may never be able to tell anyone where spirit came from, exactly what it said to us, why we need to get up and move, why we need to sit down and stop talking, how it is that spirit expressed within us that it wanted to be expressed through us. It's kind of hard to put, for instance, if I tried to say to a bank as I'm trying to get a loan, well, spirit will provide. There's no line for that on the application, and most budgets don't have that line in it. Center for Spiritual Living here in Prescott does. Years ago, one of the wonderful board members said, you know what, we're short by $5,000, but I'm willing to bet God has it. So we're going to put in the line that just says GK. GK, God knows. And it's not a God knows. It's a God already knows. And we're going to find out. But I don't need to know right now. It has never not worked. We've been doing this for years, guys, and we have almost always come out far ahead of whatever we said God knew was available to us. So I just keep increasing the number in my head because it seems to be working. So there are those odd little things we do on our individual journey or our individual path along the journey that may not make sense to anyone else, because the infinite invisible within us is simply guiding us to go back up the mountain or come back down to the valley or simply be a hero in a quiet way that doesn't require Hollywood to throw in a soundtrack or explosions. And it's happening all around us. In meditation the other day, I had it was weird, but in meditation, somebody put a baby in my lap. And I ended up having a conversation with this imaginary child. I'm not like talking to things that are not there. I'm talking to the divine, which is absolutely there. But I noticed the child smiling at everyone like it could see, he or she, I don't know, something that I couldn't see. And the gift of that child in my lap during that meditation was knowing that the divine presence was right there with me, was as that child looked out the window at the birds and looked up at the trees, that child was seeing the spirit within each person, place, thing, being, animal. Have you noticed that animals sometimes just stare into space? They might be meditating with their eyes open, or they might be looking at the face of God. To me, hopefully it's the same thing. As a matter of fact, in the Talmud, which our Jewish brothers and sisters use as scripture, there's a story in there about every time a child is born, you'll notice they have this little divot on their upper lip, some more than others. But in the Talmud, it says that's because an angel came to them just before birth and said, shh, don't tell. Don't tell of what you came from. Don't tell of the magnificence of God. Don't give away the ending to this particular story. Don't, spoilers, be careful of spoilers. The path might seem hard some days, and yet there is this infinite invisible that is arranging things for us that we can see evidence of in the way the world works. It is this infinite invisible that is telling the trees when to put forth their leaves and when to drop them. And there is no part of us that can absolutely say, we heard the voice say, drop this particular leaf right now. But the trees know. The trees feel all of the signs, excuse me, of the divine all around them and in them. They are rooted in it, in every sense of the word. And so one of the things I look for as the presence is somebody living in their joy. Teilhard de Chardin wrote that joy is the infallible sign of the presence of God. So imagine, and if you have trouble imagining it, you can go to YouTube after this and find it, the sound of a child's giggle. Some of us who have cared for small children know that some of them, when they wake up, there's this look of awe and wonder on their faces. To me, that was a sure sign that the child I was taking care of was seeing God all around her as she woke up. She did it every single time, and it was the best part of my day when I got to take care of her and she took a nap, because that meant she was waking up. And I'd get to see that look on her face and remember that that look belongs on my face and your face and everybody else's face. I think it's why children get so excited when they see a mirror. It's because they haven't forgotten that they too are the children of God. And as Edwin Gaines would say, God doesn't have any grandchildren. Although it might be fun to be the grandchild of God, come to think of it. But in truth, we are all directly, immediately coming forth, emanating from the perfect divine being, and we don't need the intermediary. So when you see the Christ, you see joy. When you see someone's Buddha nature, you are seeing peace. And you can flip that around and look for evidence of the Buddha or Krishna or the Christ or whatever name you want to put on it by looking for joy and looking for peace and looking out into the world. If you see someone who has lost their joy and can't seem to smile to save their life, give them your smile. Trust and believe you have extra. Trust and believe that they will need it. And perhaps it'll inspire more joy in them. It is the infinite and visible working through you to relight the flame of hope in them. Back in the day, we used to talk about the 10 core concepts. And the last core concept that we made sure got in there was about the Christ consciousness. And although I don't know that you'll find it in your textbook, what I know is that core concept number 10 says, we believe in the direct revelation of truth through our intuitive and spiritual nature, and that anyone may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God. Let me share that again. We believe in the direct revelation of truth, capital T, truth, through our intuitive and spiritual nature, and that anyone may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God. This may or may not be the God of your childhood or the religion you were raised in. This has nothing to do with the rules you were told you had to follow to be good enough to be loved by the divine. This is about you getting quiet, going within, and doing the prayer work and the meditation work and the simple listening that allows you to see the true nature of your own magnificent soul. It's in there. You can't help but have a magnificent soul. It is the very nature of who you are. There's nothing you need to do to earn it and nothing you could do to make it happen. This simply is. And it is one of the best things about being a religious scientist is that my job every single day is to wake up and remember it about me and remind you about you. And so, how do we know what that indwelling God wants of us, wants to express through us. Again, Ernest Holmes wrote, anything that will enable us to express greater life, greater happiness, greater power, so long as it does not harm anyone, must be the will of God for us. As much life as one can conceive will become part of his experience. And I'm going to read that again because it's important. Anything that will enable us to express greater life, greater happiness, greater power, so long as it does not harm anyone, must be the will of God for us. As much life as one can conceive will become part of our experience. The truth is that we don't need to guess what the will of God is or the right thing to do is. We already know. There is a part of you that already knows where your heart is calling you today. There is a part of you that already knows that you are the beloved of the beloved. And anything you think, say, or do that comes between you and that knowing is what some people might call sin. Now, in our tradition, sin does not mean you're going to hell. We don't have a hell. Sorry, you'll have to open up your own if you really need one. What we have is the experience here on earth of that feels hellish, that feels like what some people might call evil. And that happens anytime we forget that the infinite love of the divine lives in us and wants to express through us. If you've ever eaten bad food, you know what it feels like to try and hold in something that is not good for you. And so we just let it go. And yes, there will be times in your life when that letting go is going to be messy. Reverend Dr. Kathy Hearn used to say that we come together in community so that we can grow up all over each other. You don't have to be perfect or pretty or graceful to be part of this community. What you must be is the magnificent soul that you already are. And what you must be is willing to learn how to live from that place of allowing the infinite invisible to guide your every word, every breath, every step. And it's so important that you know that no matter where you live or what you have thought about yourself or been told about yourself and your own unworthiness, that's a lie, by the way. No matter what that may be, you are welcome here, just as you are and just as you are not. No matter what you have done or been, God loves you as you are. And this community exists to help us remember that, not to tell you how to think, but perhaps to help you remember to think. Go deeper in your thinking. Think more critically about the belief systems that are rolling around in the back of your head when you were all alone in your head without adult supervision. And thank you, Iyanla Van Zandt, for putting that idea in. So here's the truth. You are already the face of God. You are already the face of love for someone, somewhere. If you are very, very blessed and have done your work, you are the face of love and the face of God in the mirror. So many of you who are voting members received Valentines from me. If you didn't, it's probably still stuck in the mail. Or we don't have the correct address for you. If you are listening to this and you did not receive a Valentine either, we have an old address. Or perhaps you're not a voting member. Now, being a voting member basically means that you get to vote at the annual meeting in November. But what it means in spirit and in truth, remember that we get to see the activity of spirit, according to John, that while we might not know where it comes from or where it goes, it's like the wind in that there's evidence of it all around us. And that is true of everyone who is born of the Spirit. If you are willing to commit your life to remembering your own magnificence and doing the work of letting go of everything that doesn't serve you in seeing that magnificence in yourself or others, please contact me and let the office know that you are interested in membership. This is a signal to spirit itself that you are now ready to let go of the things that have been making you miserable, the things that you have used in place of the infinite invisible, those things that, whether it's sugar or drugs or other people or money, those things you thought you would make you happy and have been failing miserably. If you're ready to move on to what you've been looking for all this time, let's talk about becoming a member of this community. There's nothing in our bylaws that says you have to live anywhere near Northern Arizona. And I will be looking at how we can better serve our international community in 2021. There are so many things we can be doing together we don't have to be physically together for. We can be a community without walls and without limits. So please do contact the office or contact me. Our emails are both at www.cslprescott.org. And if you are willing and ready to give up that which does not serve you, that which is actually getting in your way, now is the time. Use the holiday of Valentine's to practice some self-love and begin this process of waking up. One of the ways we do that, ironically, requires me to close my eyes. And so when we go into prayer, I close my outer eyes in order to focus better on my inner eyes. And I invite you to join me in that now if you'd like, or you can just look at something that is kind of uninteresting so you don't get distracted. But join me now in the consciousness we call prayer. For us, prayer is simply this: God is all there is. Everything that makes up the physical world is indwelt and surrounded by God. God is in every single atom. God is every single atom. It is the energy of life itself. He, she, it, they, us is everything that can be experienced or seen or touched. And it is so much more than the sum of all of that. God is perfect love, without condition or permission, for that matter, without regrets, without having to earn it. God is power. God is the hero within each and every one of us, because we are all within God and God is within us. That strength, that power, and that presence is in this world as all of us right now. So I speak this word for everything on the earth, below it and above it, for every sentient being, for every being that is or has ever been. It is all God. And as I speak my word, I know and claim for every being that all of the old lies, the misinformation, the bad data that we might have been hanging on to over time as a race, as a species, all of that simply is now going back to the nothingness from which it came. Because shadow cannot stand in the light of truth. It is simply the nature of God to shine forth truth. And as we are one with God, as God is all there is, that shining, that glow, that power and that presence, that capital T truth is now at work for all of us. It is awake and alive and intelligent in every single cell of every body that once believed itself to be diseased, to be sick. And because this is the truth, I release and let go of anything that looks like illness. It is the power and the presence within each and every being that looks like abundance, that looks like true prosperity, prosperity of friends and family, the prosperity of knowing that we are loved, and yes, financial prosperity as well. And so no matter what economists might be able to tell us, what we know, what the truth within us knows, is that we are heir to the kingdom of heaven. And the kingdom of heaven doesn't have low rent housing. It is not needed. The kingdom of heaven is within each and every one of us, and it is the very glory of each of our magnificent souls. I am so grateful that this is what spirit is, that this is what truth is. And in standing witness to it, I myself and all of us together are calling it into our physical experience. We are awakening to the good that is, to the ineffable, invisible presence that is infinitely good. And I now know that we see it together here on earth. And for this, I am so grateful. I am grateful for the activity of spirit as what we call the law of cause and effect. The cause in this case is the word that has just been spoken. It is the thinking around the truth that now moves into effect, creates a new effect as peace here on earth, as love here on earth, as power and as presence, and the direct revelation of truth through each and every one of us. I release this word to that law, knowing it is already done. It is already in process, and it is good and very good. And so if this has landed with you as truth, please say with me now, and so it is.